Have you ever found yourself in an embarrassing situation and before you could say anything, felt your face suddenly warm up? Or maybe someone paid you a compliment and you couldn't help but notice your cheeks turning red? That uncomfortable but oddly fascinating phenomenon is called blushing. And guess what? It's uniquely human. That's right, we're the only species on Earth that blushes. But have you ever wondered why blushing happens at all? Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll not only understand why our faces turn red, but you'll also see why this peculiar reaction may be one of humanity's most intriguing quirks. Let's start with what blushing really is. Scientifically speaking, blushing occurs when blood vessels under the skin of your face widen or dilate, allowing more blood to flow to the surface. This gives your skin that rosy glow, particularly in areas like the cheeks, forehead, and even ears. The mastermind behind this reaction? The autonomic nervous system. It's the same system responsible for involuntary functions like breathing, heart rate, and digestion. Specifically, blushing is controlled by the sympathetic nervous system, the part that governs your fight or flight response. Now you may be wondering, why would the fight or flight response, a mechanism designed to keep us safe from threats, cause us to blush? Isn't that counterproductive? Great question. Researchers believe blushing isn't really about physical survival. It's more about social survival. Picture this. You've just spilled coffee all over your boss's desk. Your face turns a shade of bright crimson, and though it feels mortifying, this involuntary reaction actually sends a powerful signal. Blushing may serve as a kind of nonverbal apology or a sign of sincerity. It says, "Hey, I know I messed up, and I feel genuinely bad about it." Social psychologists call this a form of nonverbal appeasement. What's really astonishing is that blushing is so universally recognized. It transcends cultures and languages. No matter where you're from, a blush communicates embarrassment, guilt, or even attraction. Yes, attraction. Blushing isn't limited to social faux pas. It also happens when we're around someone we find appealing. In this context, it may serve as a signal of honest vulnerability, making us more likable or approachable. Pretty wild, huh? So what's the biological mechanism behind this? When you perceive something socially awkward or emotionally stirring, your brain quickly processes it as a triggering event. This activates the amygdala, the part of your brain involved in emotional responses. The amygdala then sends signals to the hypothalamus, which triggers the sympathetic nervous system. This system tells your adrenal glands to release adrenaline into your bloodstream. While adrenaline gets your heart racing and palms sweating, it also relaxes your blood vessels, especially those near the skin's surface on your face. Voila, your cheeks turn red. But here's the kicker. Blushing is involuntary. Try as you might, you can't stop yourself from turning red. This lack of control led Charles Darwin, the father of evolutionary biology, to call blushing the most peculiar and most human of all expressions. He even wrote about it extensively in his book, The Expression of the Emotions in Man and Animals. Darwin was fascinated by the fact that blushing doesn't serve any obvious survival purpose. However, modern evolutionary scientists argue that it may have evolved to strengthen social bonds. Think of it this way. By displaying physical signs of regret, embarrassment, or attraction, humans were better able to maintain cooperative relationships within groups, an essential skill for survival back in the day. There's also a psychological angle to consider. People who are more empathetic or socially conscientious tend to blush more often. Why? Well, they're more attuned to the emotions and opinions of those around them. In fact, studies have shown that people who blush easily are often rated as more trustworthy. Blushing can actually work in your favor. Imagine being in a high-stakes meeting where you've accidentally said something out of line. The fact that you blush might actually make others more forgiving of your mistake. Your physiological reaction indicates that you care about the social dynamics. But not everyone sees blushing as endearing. For some, it can actually become a source of anxiety. Ever heard of erythrophobia? It's the fear of blushing. People with erythrophobia become so preoccupied with the idea of turning red that it leads to, you guessed it, even more blushing. Talk about a vicious cycle. Fortunately, there are treatments like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, to help manage this condition. Interestingly, there's also a rare condition called idiopathic craniofacial erythema, where people blush excessively, often without any clear trigger. For those severely affected, surgery is sometimes considered to interrupt the nerve signals that cause blushing. But these are extreme cases. For most of us, blushing is just an occasional and harmless reaction. Speaking of harmless, have you ever wondered why blushing feels so warm? This sensation happens because of the increased blood flow to the surface of your skin. Oddly enough, that warmth can sometimes make blushing even more noticeable, creating a feedback loop where the sensation of warmth makes you aware of your blush, which then makes you blush even more. It's almost like your body's way of saying, let's double down on this. Now let's address the elephant in the room. Blushers of the world, what can you do to manage this? While you can't really stop yourself from blushing completely, there are ways to help reduce its frequency or intensity. Techniques like controlled breathing and mindfulness exercises can help keep your sympathetic nervous system in check. If you're feeling particularly bold, you might even try desensitizing yourself to the situations that make you blush by deliberately exposing yourself to mild levels of social discomfort. Over time, this form of exposure therapy can help you blush less frequently, or at least care less about it when you do. Finally, let's debunk a major myth. Blushing isn't inherently a sign of weakness. In fact, it might just be one of the secret superpowers of human behavior. Think about it. This involuntary reaction connects us to others on a deeply emotional level. It shows that we're human, that we care, and that we're willing to be vulnerable. In a world that often feels increasingly disconnected, blushing might just be a refreshing reminder of our shared humanity. So the next time you catch yourself turning red, don't be too hard on yourself. Whether you're feeling embarrassed, flattered, or attracted to someone, your blush is doing the talking for you, and it's probably saying more than words ever could. And isn't that just a little bit magical? Thanks for watching this episode of Why Facts. If you found this video illuminating or maybe even blush-worthy, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know in the comments what topic you'd like us to tackle next. Until next time, stay curious.